Now, this is breaking news, and it comes to us from U.S. Central Command. Our military is making history on the battlefield. New video shows long-range precision strike missiles being used in combat for the first time ever. CENTCOM says they provide unrivaled deep strike capability. And here is the moment the U.S. destroyed an Iranian naval ship with a torpedo. This was in the Indian Ocean. It was the first time a submarine has sunk an enemy ship with a torpedo since World War II. Our military has struck or sunk more than 20 Iranian ships so far. These images show the attack from last night on a Soleimani-class warship. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth says we've virtually wiped out Iran's leadership. Watch this.
Iran's senior leaders are dead. The so-called governing council that might have selected a successor, dead, missing, or cowering in bunkers. They can't talk or communicate, let alone mount a coordinated and sustained offensive. The Iranian Air Force is no more. The Iranian Navy rests at the bottom of the Persian Gulf. Combat ineffective, decimated, destroyed, defeated. Last night, we sunk their prize ship, the Soleimani. Looks like POTUS got him twice.
Guys, thanks so much for joining John Soto. This is SotoCast taking a look at here. Those are pretty strong words by Hegseth. I'm sure I'm not going to be the one to say that, a lot of people I think are feeling the same type of way. Some people are actually, ecstatic. Some people are very angry. And I think the vast majority, I would say I'm part of that camp, is just cautiously skeptical. And what I mean by that is, we don't want, again, that mission accomplished, when Bush had the banner over the head on the carrier. We don't want to have that moment. We don't want to feel that feeling again and then be in the exact same position that we were before. I still am optimistic, though. Cautiously optimistic, I would say. In that, if we take a look at the track record of the administration, if we take a look at how he's handled operations in the past, he still hasn't gotten us into a long quagmire for war. Maybe he's done a lot of things that maybe a lot of libertarian-minded people, that a lot of liberals, that those types of people, they don't like. And that's fine. But the question still remains is that, on the whole, the 80-20 issue is no long-term conflict. That's probably the crux of a lot of the angst that we're all seeing. And I totally understand that, because I think I'm there too. I don't want to see that. I kind of, my issue with a lot of the people on the right is to just keep pounding the anti-Israel angle of this. So I'm of the camp that it can be multiple things at once. It can be that Israel played a big part in the decision making, sure. It could be that China, I think, had a big part in the decision making. And what I mean by that is, if you take a look at Venezuela, if you take a look at Iran, essentially what we're doing is we are kneecapping China in terms of what they can get from an energy standpoint, an oil standpoint. It can be that this was an actual regime that wanted death to America. Could they enact that? Probably not. Not at this time. Would they be able to someday? Perhaps. Could it be that he is just trying to lay the groundwork for the future, knowing that in the event that the next election and the election after that doesn't go in the way that maybe he wants it to? By him, I mean Trump. That maybe that we would get to a point of no return with Iran, and that the American public wouldn't have the stomach for it. There wouldn't be a leader in the position that could do anything really about it, and that we would essentially be stuck with them for the foreseeable future. And it would get to a point of perhaps a nuclear Iran. I know everyone says that's a quagmire because they've been crying nuclear Iran for 30 years. The weapons of mass destruction argument is another argument that was made. However, nobody wants to see war. Well, some people do. Very few people. The majority of people don't want to see war. But I'm still, with his track record so far, with Trump's track record and the way he has been conducting these operations, I'm still willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Now 3 months from now, that's going to be a totally different story. If everyone still has hanging over their, at least I have. Whenever somebody tells me a deadline, I just think of 15 weeks to slow the spread. That's exactly what my mind goes to. And I think a lot of people are very similar. At least you have to be. You have to be thinking that way. Right? There's the contractor always tells you 2 weeks for the job, and then he's there 3 months later. So I think I'm willing to give a good quarter, 1 to 3 months, see what they can get doing. As long as these things are starting to scale down, then I think my level of confidence will start moving in the right direction. But again, because of his track record, I'm on the ball. I'm willing to grant him a good deal of space to get things done that he feels like he needs to get done, and that ultimately I think he thinks hopefully will benefit America. But let's take a look at this report now. The general's going to come on. Let's see what he has to say, and then we'll comment. If you guys are here, please subscribe to the channel. That's all I ask. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. That really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate it.
He says we're winning hands down. The gentleman on the right-hand side of the screen is General Jack Keane. General, Iran's deputy foreign minister just did an interview with MS Now, and he said a new leader has not been chosen. He says an interim body of 3 people running the country at the moment are preparing for the election of a new supreme leader. General, looks like they're all over the place. They're trying to control the message, and they're not being very successful on it. What do you say?
Yeah, they're in a desperate stage for sure, and we're beginning to see the fissures, to be sure, and they're on a pathway to major problems and likely some kind of collapse of this regime. We don't know for certain, but that's clearly, it appears that pathway is right in front of us. What we have been able to achieve militarily is really quite remarkable, and it's a fulfillment of the very ambitious plans that we had put together based on excellent intelligence and the very experienced forces that are at play here and knowing what we could do based on that intelligence. We have on the battlefield here the 2 most proven militaries in the world today. They have the most experience, and for the first time ever, they are working on a combined operation that has common goals together. And nobody can stand up to that, and certainly not the Iranians, who are already in a weakened condition. So let's take an example, ballistic missiles. That was the major conventional system that they have, and something that we were both very concerned about, the United States and Israel. And on day 1, we did massive attacks on that, so much so that it reduced their ability to retaliate. Remember, on day 1, they were saying weakened response, the Israelis and the CENTCOM people as well. And then our ambition is that by day 3, we would reduce their ability to retaliate and conduct attacks against U.S. bases and the Israelis by 75%. That is exactly retaliation diminishment that we achieved on day 3. Now it's up, according to the briefing we just heard by Chairman Kaine and Secretary Hegseth, somewhere around 86%.
Well, I mean, from my understanding and from what I've gathered through my research, is that a couple of things. One, obviously they had a massive arsenal and ready to go. The amount of attacks that they launched afterwards it was pretty substantial. And just imagine what that could have been had they not taken out a lot of the facilities that they did prior to the attack, or during the attack, rather, I should say. But at this point now, there's no resupplyment, right? What I think a lot of people are missing, like I said, especially like the people that just cry Israel for everything. Like I get it. I don't want them to have any say in our country. But this can be a couple of things at once. You have to realize that Iran was tied to Russia and essentially China. And where are they? I think it's illustrating that you guys are all alone, and we have a united front against regimes like this. And all the people that said they were your partners, they're not your partners. They're not your allies. They're not your friends. They're transactional. They need oil, or they need whatever, and you guys are providing that for them. So we're all cool and everything, but if you're getting the shit kicked out of you, we're going to be hands off on this. And we're going to be hands off on this because a couple of reasons. One, we can't really compete. I mean, what can Russia really do right now? Honestly, I mean, they're fighting a war on a front for the past couple of years that, from all accounts should have taken a few weeks, and now we're in what, year 4 or 5, of this war. China is reeling because they now understand that. I mean, the Venezuelan oil wasn't that much; it was a small percentage, but Iran was a big percentage. Let's be real. Iran was supplying China with a substantial amount of oil, and that's now pretty much done. So Iran doesn't have any friends. That's coming to fruition now. Everybody's really realizing that now. Everyone's getting on the ball. The only question is what happens now going forward. The administration has not really put forth that yet. I'm very hopeful. I would say I'm sure that there is some sort of idea to go forward. The reason why they're not illustrating that at this point is anybody's guess. But if you think that if these people, they had 4 years to come up with these plans, with these ideas, with these strategies. This was not something that I guarantee you. This was not something that they've thought about in the past couple of months. Venezuela, in my opinion, was a direct preeminent, like a precursor for this. They had to do Venezuela first. They had to. And one of the main reasons why, again, there's always the China angle that people have to realize and come back to. Once you cut that off, you start diminishing the non-Western powers that Venezuela had there, because China was there, a lot of Muslim countries were there, countries that were not Western friendly. And then you pivot, then you hit China. And now, from my understanding, they just did an anti-narco operation as well in, I don't know if it was Central America, but I'm just getting reports of that now. There's a lot of moving pieces going on. This stuff has been being planned out for years, and now it's being implemented. So I'm pretty sure that this stuff is going to have a lot of level of precision. Say whatever you want about Trump, even if you don't like him, if you don't think he's eloquent or whatever. There's a lot of smart people around this guy, and they're definitely going to implement this stuff to the T. And I think very well. And so far, like I said, it's been going well. A lot of people would disagree just because they didn't want it to begin in the first place. But it's there. We're at this point. It started. Now let's see what happens.
That's just an example. The Navy's gone, the Air Force is gone, and certainly the drones are being depleted rather dramatically. The retaliation impact on them is 73%. And on missile penetration and drone penetration, it's down around 10%. And that is the reason, Stuart, for, by anybody's definition, light casualties, despite the heartbreak of losing 6 of our soldiers due to a drone attack. And let me say that as a result of that, certainly that has committed all of our military forces, both Israeli and American, to make certain that those lives aren't squandered. And we finish this thing completely on our terms. And this regime doesn't have the capability to hurt Americans, to hurt Israelis, or destabilize that region again, which they have been doing for almost 50 years. Now, we are seeing the pathway for this to be over.
As President Trump says, our goal is no nuclear weapons, no refining of uranium, no missiles, no drones, no production thereof, and no help for proxies like Hezbollah and Hamas. Are we going to achieve those goals relatively quickly?
Well, we're going to achieve those goals based on the conditions that we're dealing with. So we haven't set a time schedule for that. If we do it in the next 10 days, that'd be fine. But if it takes 3 or more weeks, we got some lousy weather coming in a few days. That'll curb some of our aviation operations, to be sure. The enemy always has a vote here, but not much of one now, given what we've done to them.
Yeah.
So we've always had from the beginning what we call a conditions-based operation. Those conditions, our ability to achieve our objectives, drives the length of the mission. So we're not preoccupied with time. We're only preoccupied with the targets assigned to defeat each one of those systems that you just mentioned. And when that is done, then we're likely finished. Now, the Israelis are starting a new phase yesterday, and that deals with stripping down everything that sustains the regime. Not only leadership will be seen, but the IRGC, its leaders, its entire organization, its network communication systems, the weapons that they use themselves, where they are in various cities to repress the population.
If you just take a look at what's going on now and just take a step back, it's kind of amazing to think that there's so many people that are happy right now. Like obviously, if you're a non-interventionist, if you're a libertarian, if you hate Trump, so those are factions. If you are on the right, the very anti-Israel side of the right, that's another faction. So other than those few groups, few pockets, if you think about Iranians, for the most part, are ecstatic. Obviously, Israelis. I don't know too many Americans that are really ecstatic about it. I think that there may be some that are thinking that maybe this was something that needed to happen. And in the end, it might be a good thing. So they're not really like completely against it. They want to see where it's going, and I think that is obviously the administration understands that point. Obviously, the administration. I don't think that they see a future where they're going to be at all viable if they continue the path of an Iraq or an Afghanistan. They understand that. And I'm sure this is something that's been thought about. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt, like I said, and just see where it goes.
The same thing with the Basel militia, the intelligence security services, and the police infrastructure that's used to repress the people. We fully intend to strip that away so that at the end of the day, these are the organizations and capabilities that preserve the regime.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, man. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. John Soto, this is SotoCast. Follow me on the X, 623 Talk on the X. I'm going to do a couple more of these segments because they're really interesting stuff. Please hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you again in the next video, guys. Take care.